Hello, my name is Gusmar Verdi. I am the video director and editor of this video.
My name is Miles Pletcher, and I'm the primary researcher.
My name is Mike Pimpo, and I'm the scriptwriter and storyboard creator. The Cuneo Mansion was originally a home for Samuel Insull, the founder of General Electric, and the mansion was completed in 1916. After 21 years, John Cuneo Sr. bought the mansion after the Insull's empire collapsed. The Cuneo family origins are in northern Italy. This is significant because it wouldn't be the museum that we know today if it wasn't sold to John Cuneo Sr.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Lisa Cushing-Davis. I'm the Associate Director here at Loyola University's Cuneo Mansion and Gardens. I have my Master's in History from the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire. I also have my PhD in Public History with a focus on museum studies and historic preservation. That's what brought me here to the Cuneo Mansion, the ability to be able to practice both of those skill sets. So I've been at the Cuneo for 6 years now. We have gone through some transitions, but we are now reopened to the public and building our programming and our tours and our events and other revenue streams. And so I see smooth sailing ahead.
Okay, do you know any interesting facts about the Cuneo family?
I do. There are always interesting facts about families who have lived in a property for a long period of time. One of my favorite stories about the Cuneo family is when they lived here, Mrs. Cuneo liked to entertain regularly. And they would entertain up to 60 people at a very long table with Mr. Cuneo at one end of the table and Mrs. Cuneo at the other end of the table. But they wanted to be able to talk during dinner. So they had a telephone set put at either end of the table with the wire run under the carpeting so that they could pick up the receiver and they could talk to one another during dinner.
Okay, why was John Cuneo Jr. so eager to get rid of the mansion and the land around it?
So John Jr. Had an interesting childhood. When the Cuneo family moved out here to this property in 1937, it was very, very rural and very, very isolated. So when the Cuneo family moved here, they put bars on all of the windows of John Jr.'s bedroom, and they put an iron cage on his sleeping porch. They did not do this so much to contain him as to keep bad people out, because they moved here shortly after the Lindbergh baby was kidnapped and murdered. And so their goal was to keep their only son safe. But I often wonder what that did to him growing up as a young man. He was always more comfortable out on the surrounding properties than he was here in the mansion. And while he was very, very active in preserving his father's legacy, as he got older, he knew that he could not continue this forever. So it was his goal to preserve the mansion and the grounds by donating the mansion and the collection to Loyola University. That was his way of ensuring that his father's legacy would continue to be preserved.
Okay, what do some of the different murals depict?
So I am not an art historian, but there are murals that if you want, after we finish the interview, you can go take some pictures of. But they are mainly Flemish, and some of them are Belgian from Brussels. And there's one that depicts a wedding celebration. There's one that depicts a king being crowned. So they are all 16th century tapestries, so they all would have a medieval history focus.
And so a lot of us, myself included, have gone to the annual light show.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to it?
So when the property was donated to Loyola, it came with a small endowment and a huge amount of deferred maintenance. It came to Loyola in 2010, and it still had the original circa 1915 boiler. It still had the knob and tube wiring. Every roof system on the mansion had failed. So these were all issues that Loyola needed to address. And John Cuneo Jr. understood that as well. So in the deed of gift between the Cuneo Foundation and Loyola is a clause that acknowledges that the north 50 acres of the property would have to be sold in order to provide the endowment needed to continue to make those repairs and to keep the mansion intact going forward. So the light show was held on that north 50 acres. The Cuneo Foundation always provided the land, but the show itself was managed by the Village of Vernon Hills. They built the light displays, they erected the light displays, they took down the light displays, they stored the light displays. They provided the personnel to manage any electrical issues, any display issues during that period of time. And it was thus a joint decision between the university and the village that the light show would not go forward, I believe after 2014.
Okay, can you stop? So why was the Cuneo mansion originally built?
The Cuneo mansion was originally built for Samuel Insull, the founder of Commonwealth Edison. It was not unusual back in the first part of the 20th century for wealthy Chicago businessmen to build houses for their families in Lake County. They would then go down into the city to conduct business and then come back at the end of the day. Chicago was a filthy city to live in. Even circa 1915, even circa 1950, Chicago was a dirty city to live in. I have seen pictures in the 1960s at high noon of Chicago, and it looks as if it is dusk, and it is because they burned coal to produce electricity. So it was not, again, unusual for wealthy businessmen to bring their family out here so that they could enjoy the healthy aspects of living in the country. So those who came out first, the Marshall Fields and their ilk, they got the land along the lake. Those that came a little later, Mr. Armour of Armour Meats, they were inland a little bit. So that's where Lake Forest Academy is today. And those that came later still, like Mr. Insull, were well into Lake County.
And what kind of uses does the Cuneo Museum and Mansion have today?
All right, so today we do several different revenue streams here. So we host wedding receptions, we host corporate events, and we host educational programming for the university. So the School of Business has classes out here, the School of Ed has classes out here, and then we have undergraduate courses that we offer during the summer. Students from Loyola and other universities who are home from the summer can get some of their required courses out of the way and then get a leg up on their studies back at their home institutions. But what is our main purpose, our main mission, is to preserve the legacy of the Insull and Cuneo estates and to present that history to the public by preserving and displaying their collections.
What types of social and social impacts are on the community from the Cuneo mansion?
That's a very good question. I know from my public history studies that a museum like this figures very prominently in the collective memory of the community. And I know there was a lot of concern within the community when the mansion was given to Loyola, and that only was raised when we closed the mansion for those couple of years that it was closed. But we understand that we are part of the community, and we want to be not so much a mausoleum, not a museum that is just focused on what happened a century ago, but we want this to become a forum for the community. So in the past, we have had car shows and concerts and lectures, and all of that is being scheduled again. So we anticipate a car show this coming September. We anticipate having 4 concerts this summer. We anticipate a concert series in the mansion with classical and jazz over the winter months. And we anticipate having a lecture series beginning in September. So this is all programming that we're going to make available to the community this year and then into the future.
The Cuneo Mansion currently sits on 100 acres of land, many containing the great gardens they have. Unfortunately, John Cuneo Sr. died in 1990 and people decorated the place to honor his memories. The Cuneo Mansion is currently worth $50 million. On a large portion of the land once owned by the Cuneos, there are several different neighborhoods which are part of a housing project called Greg's Landing. Cuneo Mansion, however, will continue to be preserved under Loyola University as not only a museum but also a location where classes are taught. Its legacy lives on. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed and learned something about the Cuneo Mansion.